Now we're rolling. Damage Plan MMA podcast. I am Jason Laporte. As always, my co-host Zach Partridge in the house. And we got a special guest from across the pond, my man James Evans. How you doing, sir?
Not too bad, man. How about yourselves?
Good. I just like to say across the pond, so it's...
I tend to hear that term a lot. No, it's good to be back.
Yeah, man, it's good to have you back. It's been a while since we've done a show together, since they had the little everybody kind of disbanded on the other site.
No, it's crazy, isn't it? But no, it's good to be talking to you boys again about UFC. And unfortunately, we've had some very, very raw breaking news. That's just sort of.
I'll let you break the news, James. You go ahead and break the news for us.
No, I was literally about to join this StreamYard stream, and then I get a notification from Mayor Juani, as you do, to say that tomorrow night's main event was off. I was like, that's brilliant. It's just thrown us under the bus a bit, but we'll do our best with the rest of the card. We'll work with what we've got.
Yeah, that kind of throws a wrench on things, doesn't it?
It's still fun.
Yeah, well, I think it'll still be a good card.
There's some fights on here that I'm excited about, but real quick, well, I'd give a really big happy birthday and shout out. Sorry, is that loud? I'll give a really big happy birthday and shout out to your wife, Jason, but she don't listen to the show.
She doesn't listen to the show, so you don't have to say it. Happy birthday to my wife. She's upstairs. She's probably not listening, but happy birthday to her anyways.
Better cookies. There are none on this planet, but you don't listen to the show. So.
James, if it's feasible, I'm going to mail you some cookies from my wife.
Are they, well, what type of cookies?
Whatever you want.
What are we talking about?
They're like
dodgy, I hope.
They're like this. Do you like any kind? Oatmeal, Reese's peanut butter cup? Mate. Okay. All right. I'm going to put it together. It's probably going to cost me an arm and a leg to ship it, but you're going to love it.
Dude, it's so worth it.
That's going to be my thank you for giving us tips on how to bet soccer.
I would never do that.
You
have to be a degenerate to bet on something you don't know about.
Yeah, Zach. Oh, man. Well, should we break down the card or what?
Let's do it.
All right. I'm going to start it. We'll start at the bottom. We're going to start with Kai Maka taking a short notice fight against Jonathan Pierce. James, I'm going to go ahead. We'll just start with you, and then we'll go up to Zach and let you guys break down give you guys' thoughts on each fight.
Yeah, perfect. Kai Maka, I'm a big fan of his, to be honest. I think based on Pierce's last outings, I think this should be a comfortable night for Kamaka. I mean, I'm not impressed by Jonathan whatsoever. He had a miserable night, falling victim to Lawson's foot. I think that was the first round knockout first knockout in 4 years. Whereas Kamaka looked great against Kelly, putting on, I think he got the fight of the night performance on that night. I think he's moving up a division, so he's got to respect Pierce's power. He is a big underdog going into this one, Pierce, but he has there is a chance of causing some sort of an upset, but I've got to back Kamaka's technique on this one, especially on the feet, just to avoid that knockout threat. I think he'll get the better whilst in the training exchanges. He's also got that grappling in his back pocket if required, but again, I think just expect Kamaka's slick movement on the feet and in the trading. I think he will get the job done. I don't think he'll get the finish. I just think he'll sort of cruise to a comfortable unanimous decision victory on this one.
Yeah, I just think that the skill set's just a little bit higher for Kai Kamaka the third. I just don't love to see, when I'm looking at these fighters, Jonathan Pierce, I just don't love to see the loss to Joe Lozon on there in his UFC debut. I mean, Joe is a extremely seasoned veteran, been around a long time, obviously was known for his ground and pound about 12 years ago. But when you get ground and pounded it out when he was on a 3-fight lose, I don't know. He is quite a bit bigger. He's 6 foot versus 5'7" with Kai coming off the short notice. But I don't. Yeah, again, I'm not sure what kind of knockout power or whatever that Kai has at 155 versus 145. But I think the skills are high enough that a decision there would be, would be a safe assumption, safe bet. I mean, he's a 3-1 favorite for a reason.
He is. I want to go against it so bad, but I love Kai Maka, man. It is kind of alarming. What kind of sets it off? It is a short notice fight, and he is moving up in weight, and he's fighting. I mean, Jonathan Pierce he's the bigger guy. I mean, something tells me he might rewrite the ship here and kind of pull this off. But I'm going to stick with Kamaka. So we'll go with Kamaka by the win, and I think we're all kind of in agreement that he's probably going to go by decision too, right?
Yeah.
You don't see Kai knocking him out, do you? Either, Zach?
I mean, he could, but
yeah. All right, so we're all in agreements on Kai winning this fight. Next fight up will be Nate Maness against Luke Saunders. Take it away, James.
Going into this one, I think Maness will be obviously the bigger fighter, and we'll have that. What stands out is that 5-inch reach advantage and the 4 inches in height, but I think he can only make use of it if they're standing and trading. His takedown defense will be tested against Sanders, and I'm looking forward to this one. I think on paper, he said it's one of the first fights of the night, and like I said, Maness's takedown defense will be tested, and I genuinely think Sanders, will be looking to pile on the pressure early and potentially get the stoppage in the second round. I'm going for a second round finish in Sanders' favour. I think he's the slight favourite going into this one, I think. The key for him is his wrestling, and I genuinely think he's got the edge and the experience as well. Sanders, only by a couple of fights.
Yeah.
And his last fight was against Henan Barral, which was some time ago, but I still think he will get the job done tomorrow night by second round.
Ooh, second round.
Yeah. Again, we're gonna have another fight with the big height disadvantage. The optics look weird when you get two guys that are in there, especially in these smaller weight classes like a bantamweight. You really see the difference there. 5'6" to 5'10". I do like Luke Sanders in this fight as well, from the standpoint of, I think, holding his experience in the UFC. Right, Maness has only had one fight in the UFC. Luke Sanders he's been in the UFC since 2016 and was fighting in RFA before that, which was a pretty high level feeder organization here in America to be prepared for this. And he started with a great record, and he had some tough losses. But I think holding wins over and sharing cage time over somebody like Henan Barral, former champion, and some of the other guys that he's shared the cage with, I think the experience gets it done for him in this one. Luke Sanders, a little bit smaller again, but I am going to go with the smaller guy once again with Luke Cool Hand Sanders to win. I don't really know how this one's going to go, though. I don't have any predictions how it's going. I just think he wins. I just think experience wins. Freaking MMA fighters, they should be able to win anywhere, right?
I'm going to go with the grain, man. I think Luke Sanders gets it done. I like the experience. He's been around a little bit longer. Let's go Luke Sanders. I don't really have a take on it. I'm not going to play this one. I don't have any play on this one as far as how it's going to end but if I had to make a pick, I'm going by Luke Sanders. Next up, we have Sue Majuri against Malcolm Gordon. Take it away, James.
The one thing that stands out is Majuri's 4 submission losses, and Gordon's got a lot of submission wins under his belt. I believe he's got 6. The factor, this will be a factor if the fight does go to the floor, but the more important factor is Majuri's power, and he has some serious power in that division, the flyweight division. And like I said, of course, Malcolm's bread and butter is obviously going to be his wrestling. But again, all fights start standing on the feet. So if Sue can sort of avoid the takedown early and keep the fight standing, then I think he will catch him with some shots early on and potentially get the knockout. All but 2 of Sue's wins have come via knockout, and he will be the bigger man. I think he's stepping down to flyweight, so he should have too much on the feet for Malcolm, whose chin has really been tested a lot already in his career. So if he gets a couple of nice shots early on and avoids those takedowns, I think it'll be a comfortable night at the office for Sue Majuri. But I think he'll get it done in the first round.
Nice.
I would also like Majuri in this fight from the standpoint of Malcolm X has shown 3 of his 4 losses have been by knockout. And when you're going against a guy that hits as hard as Majuri does, that's kind of the way that I'm leaning. A lot of these guys, the other thing is Malcolm X, Gordon, The Rona's been rough on him. He's had 4 canceled fights almost in the last year, and that's hard, and that mentally weighs on fighters a lot going into him. He fought back in the summer in July and lost via triangle choke, and it just seems like he's kind of in a little funk right now to me. But I'll take Majiri's power in this one. I should be looking at the odds.
We're all just going with chalk, man. I like Majiri.
Is he the favorite?
Majiri is the favorite, and I believe he's actually a 3-1, more than the 3-1 favorite.
Oh wow!
I'm going to tell you what the play could be if you wanted to sprinkle a little bit is Malcolm Gordon by submission. That could be in play just because of Majiri. If he loses, he usually gets submitted. So I'm going to just, for those of you that are listening, that if you want to kind of roll the dice a little bit, maybe sprinkle a little bit on Malcolm Gordon by submission. But I think Majiri does end up getting this one done. Next fight up, we got Martin Day against Anderson Dos Santos.
I think with a lot of them, with the pair of them, there's a lot of pressure on both men, as I think they're both on a significant losing streak, and a third loss in a row for both of them could be curtains for their UFC career. And I think because of that, both men will fully expect, we as fans expect them to bring a fast pace with a lot of volume. And I think the majority of the fight will take place on the feet, and it will be closely contested. But I think they will have the edge on the feet. I think Dos Santos was originally supposed to fight Jack Shaw on Fight Island a couple of months ago in July, and I think Jack Shaw would have absolutely starched him. And I think we're going to see a similar one-sided affair in this one. I think they, like I said, will have the edge. He's got the height advantage and the reach advantage, and his output will likely be the deciding factor. He'll land more significant strikes to seal a comfortable decision, or maybe even pull off a late knockout. But I'm going to go for a day by decision.
Matchmakers have a weird sense of humor. This fight, 5-inch height advantage, height disadvantage for one fighter to the other. But I am flipping it. I really wanted to go with the Brazilian here, but man, I don't like the matchup for him. One thing that I do believe, the lower the weight class, the more the age plays a factor, because there's speed in it, right? We are talking 35 versus 32, but I think once you start getting into your mid to late 30s in those lower divisions, the fighters, they're getting better in some areas, but their speed diminishes. And in these high-paced, on-the-feet fights, all it takes is that split second can be the make or break in a fight on, being able to get your head off the line for a jab or whatever. And I think that favors Martin Day just a little bit. Anderson's been through the ringer, 28 pro fights versus Martin Day's only 12. But I think Martin Day could. I actually think he could have a nice little knockout here tonight or tomorrow night, and get back on the winning track in the UFC. I like Martin Day. Excuse me.
The only thing that is kind of a red flag for Martin Day is he's pretty quick turnaround from his last fight. I mean, he did fight back in July, but it was a pretty brutal knockout to Davey Grant. Both these guys are on 2-fight losing streaks. Like I said, that would be the only red flag to me was his KO loss in his last fight. Is he going to be able to rebound from that? I do think the height and reach advantage is going to be the difference, and I'm going to go with Day on this one too, despite having been KO'd in his last match bout. Next up, we have Ashley Evans Smith against Norma Dumont.
Again, this is a bit of a weird one. I think bantamweight is the more natural weight class for Dumont, because I think her last fight was against Megan Anderson, and she got absolutely obliterated, to say the least. So she's dropping back down to probably a more comfortable weight class rather than going back up to featherweight. And I'm not too sure on this one. I think Evan Smith, although she's been inactive, her experience fighting much more accomplished fighters will probably be crucial in this one. And I can understand why she's the slight favorite from what I've seen, because of she's fought at a high level of competition. But I think she's moving up from flyweight. they're very similar in terms of their physique and their sort of style. And I think expect Dumont to open up with a couple of heavy kicks early, threaten the takedown, but I think she will have to be careful not to end up on her back because Evan Smith has a dangerous ground and pound. I think Evan Smith is probably the more sensible pick in this one, like I said, because she's fought the high caliber fighters compared to Dumont, who's got that lack of experience fighting against the tough women in the bantamweight and in the featherweight division. So I'm going to go for a Smith via decision.
Finally, we can disagree on one. I like Ashley Evans Smith. I do. I really do. But like you said, Dumont, she fought Megan Anderson in her UFC debut. No picnic. She's not a real 145er either. Well, I mean, she fought. Oh, my bad. She fought. Yeah, that's right. She's not a 145er. She is a bantamweight, and she shot her shot, fighting out of her weight class, trying to make a name for herself in the UFC. And if there's anything that I've learned watching this sport over the years is the higher level you get, the more important fighting in the correct weight class is. Making your debut out of weight class, while there's a high risk reward on there, because if you can make an impact, you'll make a name for yourself. And Dana White loves those fighters that'll fight anybody, anywhere, anytime. Usually not the smartest thing, though. Look at the track record of people fighting out of their weight class when they're moving up to a different organization. Not good. It's not good. I think she is a bantamweight. I think she's the stronger fighter. They're about the same size, 5'7", 5'8", but I think Dumont just kind of has a little bit more of a, I don't know, what's the right word to not be offensive towards a woman, sturdier build. I don't know what you said. She's strong. She's strong.
We'll use strong.
She's a strong girl. And Ashley Evans Smith, she's the veteran. She's been around. She's been in the cage with people like Raquel Pennington. She's been in the cage with people like Beck Rollins, Andrea Lee, Marianne Reneau. She's been in there with people and holds wins over some of these tough girls. But she's coming up. One's coming up, one's coming down. I would have to imagine that the strength there would have to favor Dumont. And I'm not super familiar with her background, but I would imagine her ground game's pretty solid coming from Brazil as well. So I'm actually going to go with Norma on this one because I like that she's coming down to her normal weight class. And I feel like our girl Ashley Evans Smith is coming up and fighting somebody that might be a little bit too strong for her.
I'm going to echo what Zach said. I'm going to go with Norma Dumont on this one. I'm not going to go the breakdown. You guys did a pretty good breakdown on both these, so I'm going to go Norma Dumont. Next up, Rachel Ostovich against Gina Mazzani. What do you think on this one, James?
I genuinely, personally, I'm not looking forward to this one whatsoever. But both ladies have not exactly set the world alight with their skill, and another sort of poor showing in this one could see the UFC reconsider their contracts. I think Ostovich, the reason why she's still competing is because she's marketable. I think she's got a very popular following on her Instagram page, and people seem to like it. So the UFC, like I say, she's marketable. But Ostovich, she's a decent grappler, but obviously you've seen her in the last outing. She's been completely outclassed on the ground by the likes of Andrea Lee, De La Rosa, and Paige Van Zandt recently. I think that was her last fight. And again, I think a lot of people know my sort of feelings on Paige Van Zandt. I just do not like her as a fighter. It's horrendous. And if you're getting submitted by Paige Van Zandt, that's sort of saying something. And I don't know, she could have some sort of luck in this one, Rachel, because Mazzani's not going to, she obviously doesn't have their grappling prowess. She's better. She's more of an equipped striker, and she'll be the bigger woman with a 6-inch reach advantage and a 3-inch height advantage. So if she can use that extra weight and size to defend the takedowns from Rachel and keep it in a striking battle, you'll probably have to back her in this one to probably get a decision. Or if Ostovich gets a takedown, she could dominate in the ground and maybe pull off a submission. But although both women have had a tough time in the UFC, I'm probably leaning towards Masny on this one. I'm not a fan of either, to be honest. But I think her striking and just the height and the reach advantage will pay dividends in this one. So I'm going to go by decision for Masny.
James, not to put words in your mouth here, but is what I just heard you say that if you can't beat somebody that just left the sport for bare knuckle boxing, if you get submitted by that person, you probably shouldn't be in the UFC. Is that what I just heard you say?
I said, she got humiliated by Paige Van Zandt, didn't she? Come on.
She did. Yeah.
She did. And I completely dislike Paige Van Zandt as well.
Why do you dislike my girl Paige Van Zandt?
Well, how come you're a big fan of this? I mean, obviously, there's only one reason why she's going to bare knuckle. She's getting the money in bare knuckle.
I think that was a really bad career choice. But hold on, this isn't the old show. This is the Damage Plan podcast. So we're going to talk about this for a second. Why don't you like Paige Van Zandt as a fighter? She's tough. She tries hard. She broke her arm and finished the fight. She's tough.
No, I do get that. There are some sort of aspects of the game. You can tell she clearly has that mindset whereby she wants to sort of show her capability on the bigger level. I respect that, and she's done a lot. I think she's still pretty young at her age, and she burst onto the scene pretty quickly. And I mean, I don't know. I was a bit harsh on Paige Van Zandt, to be fair, but I think a lot of people on the MMA Twitter community and MMA fans alike do tend to take the piss. But in all fairness, I mean, she is tough. I will give you that.
To be fair, this is what I think, and my wife astutely pointed out she is hot. So very astute observation, babe. No, she is marketable, and I actually think she gets more hate than she deserves because of her looks. Because I do actually think she's a tough girl that has some skill. I've never seen her quit in a fight. There are a lot of dudes that would consider themselves bad A fighters that I've seen quit in MMA fights. She doesn't quit. I think she tries hard. I think she puts a lot of effort into her social media. That if she was putting that into some gym time, that might benefit her. But guess what pays more? 100%. Her social media, right? She's just out there just trying to make her living, making a buck. And I think people hate on her for it. But that's what makes her polarizing and stuff. But I mean, she was never going to be a UFC champion or top 5 contender or whatever. But man, you know what? You know who else isn't? Mike Perry, and he was the biggest draw on a UFC pay-per-view last weekend. So. There's that place for those people in sports, and I mean, by all means, everybody's welcome to hate her. That's fine. She likes it because she gets social media money from it because people pay attention to her.
Well,
but then again, Rachel Ostovich,
she's the same.
She's the same way.
She's in the same boat.
Yeah, exactly.
Skill wise, and I'm not saying Rachel Ostovich isn't tough though, but skill wise and record wise. She has no business being in the UFC.
No.
I could at least say Paige Van Zandt, at least had the skill set to be a middle road women's MMA fighter. She was above average women's. Rachel Ostovich, I hope I'm friends with her dad on Facebook. I don't know how that happened. Hope he's not watching. She probably shouldn't be in the UFC. But she's in there because of her Instagram.
Yeah.
So are you both on Mazani on this one?
No, and this is the worst part. I'm pitching Rachel Ostovich in this fight. I think she's going to submit her. How about that?
I think if you're a betting man, you might want to stay off this fight.
You should stay away from this fight. I'm not putting money on it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, the other thing that I'll say with Rachel Ostovich, the one thing that I'll give her is she's fought. If you look at who she's fought, I feel like she's fought just about every fight in the UFC. She's been an underdog, right? She hasn't been given any favors by the UFC by any means.
Yeah.
And we see, you can't say that for Paige Van Zandt or some of the other fighters that they're trying to build. So I don't know.
The Damage Plan MMA podcast turns into the Paige Van Zandt. All right, I'm gonna go. Oh man, I don't even know on this one. You could literally flip a coin on this one, in my opinion. I'm going to go Ostovich.
Gamble responsibly, people. Don't bet on this fight.
I just, yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I have no clue because I don't know nothing about Mazzani. Nothing. Ostovich, if I'm going off the Tapology page, she wins. Anyways, next fight up is Bill Ajayo against Spike Carlisle. Gotta love Spike Carlisle.
Yeah, this is a very exciting matchup. I think both men bring a furious pace, and although this is Ajayo's second UFC fight, I believe he's got some great experience fighting high caliber fighters across various promotions. You'd expect him to sort of make another good account of himself, and he will be a threat on the feet with a slight height and reach advantage. But Carlisle's output, power, and wrestling is probably going to make the difference in this fight. I don't know. I think he could either get the early stoppage or a comfortable decision victory, because wherever the fight goes, I don't think, even if Ajayo takes him into deep waters, I'm not sure he has the stopping power to put Carlisle away in brief stretches of where he's not fighting off takedowns. I think Carlisle should sort of pound him out early, like I said, potentially, even if he doesn't get a comfortable lead going into the final round and potentially get a decision victory. So I'm leaning towards the early finish in this one. I'm going to go for Spike Carlisle in the first.
I actually 100% agree with you on this. Spike's last fight against Billy Quarantillo was one of the most insane paced first rounds I've ever seen in the years I've watched MMA. He has this ferocious, explosive pace that is pretty much unmatched in the UFC. And Spike Carlisle, I just think you have to be able to control him, which is not easy, but then you have to learn how to slow down the fight, because the only person that can win in a Spike Carlisle fight is Spike. That's the one thing he has going for him. Nobody can match his pace and beat him at that. He's a freak. He's a berserker. Like he's just a bottle of energy that just goes nuts. But if you can get what Billy Quarantillo did, is he withstood the wave and let him slow himself down a little bit, and then he really took over and picked him apart and beat him up pretty good. Spike never gave up, but it was he's a different animal, man. And I actually think he's going to be a name that he might be one of the next big names, not to be like a champion or whatever, not saying he can't, but he's going to be a fan favorite real soon. And his style is just so fun. But I think Spike actually wins this fight pretty handily. The alpha ginger, my guy with the red beard.
The alpha ginger. Do you guys like the over or under on this one? Over 1.5 or under 1.5?
I think I like the under, man.
What about you, James?
Same.
I think he gets him out in the first. I don't know how, but I think he gets him out in the first. I just do not think there's that many guys that can withstand that tidal wave. And I do not believe that our guy Bill Ajayo has the ability to withstand that type of a wave from him.
I'm going to ride the train. I'm going with the Alpha Ginger as well. I think he gets it done. I like the under in this one.
I am interested to see weigh-ins, though, because he did miss weight by 6 pounds last time. 5 pounds. 6
Actually, weigh-ins are probably going on right now.
Anytime now.
Yeah.
So that is one thing to look at with Spike, is he did miss weight on his last fight. I do remember.
Next fight up should be a banger. Miguel Blaydes against Takashi Sato. What do you think on this one, James?
No, I'm very much looking forward to this one. Blaydes obviously doesn't have any submissions on the record, but he is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's one to look forward to if he may resort to that. It's definitely there in his back pocket should he use it, but forget the BJJ. It's obviously going to be a stand-up war. Blaydes is simply falling in love with those hands, which is understandable because he's got 7 knockout wins, and I expect him to approach this fight in his usual manner and recklessly hunting the chin of Sato. And as dangerous as Blaydes' hands are, he can't afford to rush in, however, leaving his chin exposed against Sato, because he himself has some serious knockout power, Sato, and the technique to exploit holes in Blaydes' defense. I think Sato's got a brutal ground pound as well, and is expected to back his hands to get the job done. So this will be a stand-up battle. And I can guarantee you this will not go the distance. I think I'm leaning towards Blaydes on this one and back him potentially for another knockout, as he's just got too much firepower. And yeah, I think Blaydes' only weakness is his technique and slash defense. And if Sato can exploit that and catch him early on with a counter potentially, then he may get the job done. But no, I'm leaning towards a favourite on this one. I think Blaydes is 9-0 or something. He's done very well in his career so far. So remain undefeated, baby. 10-0, second round TKO, Blaydes.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. He showed me everything I needed to know when he fought Matt Brown. You fight somebody like Matt Brown, who is long in the tooth. He's been around for a long time, but Matt Brown is still not an easy knockout. You know, he's not one of those guys that's turned into a glass chin. And he put Matt Brown down, and he has that power, and he showed a lot of skill in that fight as well to be able to hang with somebody like Matt Brown. I like Blaydes a lot. Takashi Sato, you know, he's had a lot of success, obviously, in respected organizations overseas before. He's been here in the UFC, has a couple nice wins in the UFC. You know, Ben Sanders, that's a really good win for him. Jason Witt, you know, that's a good win for him that he had earlier this summer. Just one loss. He's 2-1 in the UFC. So, man, it's not an easy fight for Miguel Blaydes, but I think it's one where he overpowers him and he just has too many tools. I got Miguel Blaydes by a knockout in the first or second round as well.
Yeah, I'm going with Blaydes too. Sato, it's funny because Sato is a very popular underdog pick on Twitter. You got a lot of MMA Twitter heads are thinking he's going to pull it off.
MMA fans on Twitter don't know what they're talking about.
A lot of people on Twitter don't know what they're talking about. But I don't see it, man. I think Blaydes he's bigger. I think he's stronger. I think he gets it done, and I think he gets it done.
Say it.
I'm going to go over 1.5. And only because I don't know how much Sato is going to engage right away. I think once they get engaged, I think it's going to be over with fairly quickly. But Sato's a pretty patient fighter, and he does take his time. So I could see this going into the second round. So I do like Blaydes. That's been my only official pick on this card right now has been Blaydes. Next up, is this fight still on? Amir Albazi and Zalgas Zumagulov?
No.
That's off, right? Okay. I don't know. It's still up on Tapology, but I thought it was off too.
How old's your Tapology? That's not on my Tapology.
I think I'm looking at an old one probably. Next up, we got Parker Porter and Josh Parisian.
I'm really looking forward to this one. Parisian obviously is on the 6-fight win streak coming into this matchup. His most recent victory was against Chad Johnson back in August, which was a first-round knockout win. And he's got so many impressive victories under his belt, and he's got 8 knockout wins that have resulted in first-round finishes. I'm very much looking forward to this one. He's making his debut in the promotion, and he's impressed a lot in various other promotions. So yeah, he deserves to be in and amongst the contenders in the division, and I expect him to carry on that 6-fight winning streak, turn into 7. Because Parker Porter, he's coming off of a loss to Chris Daukaus back in August, I believe, but before that he was on a 2-fight winning streak himself. So it's got all the ingredients to be an absolute banger, and I think somebody's going to chop pretty early. I think, like I said, both men, they're expected to throw heavy bombs until someone falls. I think Porter's got more of a submission threat, but again, this is likely to end up on the feet with Prison coming out on top. He's more dynamic, and I think that 4-inch reach advantage and the height advantage will be key in the exchanges, and he will eventually land the killer blow. So I'm going to go for Josh Prison via first round TKO.
Yeah, and one thing that I really like to see with these heavyweights is they're both real heavyweights, weighing in their last fights at 265.5 and 264.5. So we're not playing this game of like, hey, we got 2 heavyweights and one's 265 and one's 230. But these are big boys that have both been doing it for a while. They both have good quality wins, good quality ring experience. People are looking at Parker Porter as kind of a big underdog. I think he's a live dog in this. I think he definitely has a chance. Like you said, a little bit more experience. I mean, he's lost some tough fights. He's fought in Bellator. He shared a cage with Gabriel Gonzaga, not in the UFC, obviously. Hasn't tasted victory in the UFC yet. Chris Dukakis put him down pretty quick a few months ago. I think it's going to be a competitive fight. I think you have two pretty game heavyweights here, and I'm talking up Parker Porter quite a bit to just turn around and flip flop and pick Josh Parisian because I just think he's the better fighter. And at the end of the day, those heavyweights, they all possess the power to knock to separate another grown man from consciousness, and so there's always that chance with heavyweights, and it's what makes it so fun. But I like his experience a little bit better. I like that he kind of went through a losing streak back in 2018-19 and then has pieced together a nice 6-fight winning streak since then. I really like seeing fighters kind of overcome some adversity earlier, but now he's on a really strong upwards tick. And I think Josh Parisian is actually going to go on a nice little run here in the UFC, and we're going to start seeing him fight some names like he might be a good matchup in the near future for like a Greg Hardy or somebody like that.
I'm riding with both of you guys. I like Josh Parisian in this one. I think he gets it done. I think it's going to be an early night. I actually think it's going to be finished in the first round, or the under. If you want to take the under 1.5, that means under 230 in the second round.
Correct.
So I like Josh Parisian to get this one done.
Okay, we need Burner on here because we need somebody to argue. We are agreeing way too much.
Yeah, we are. Maybe we'll disagree on this next one. Our new main event, unfortunately, because of the Curtis Blaydes testing positive for COVID, is now Anthony Smith and Devin Clark. Take it away, James.
Again, with this one, obviously, from a UFC standpoint, Anthony Smith has not been on the best of runs recently. He had that absolute mauling against Glover Teixeira and then that defeat to Rakic as well. But Clark he's a powerful beast, but this is more of like a welcome step down in competition for Smith, who, like I said, is coming off of tough battles with the top contenders. But even Clark himself, he's got a couple of defeats to some very high level athletes. So again, all of Clark's UFC wins have come by decision. I don't think he's going to submit Smith and get the knockout. That's very unlikely. I think Clark's best to victory in this one is sort of sticking to his strengths by wrestling Smith for 3 rounds, wearing him down, potentially get on his back and pour some ground and pounds. But with Smith, again, he's making a quick turnaround, and I think we're going to expect him to show some of his old heart and bounce back like he has done in the past. He's got the experience. I think both men are similar in terms of their age, but Smith has just got so much experience in the octagon, and I think that will pay dividends for Anthony Smith in this one. I think he's a better striker and he can knock out Clark, or at least sort of knock him down, set up a submission with his excellent jiu-jitsu skills. But I think the safest bet in this one is the decision, because like I said, the majority, if not all, of Clark's wins have come via decision. So I expect the full 15 minutes in this one. I'm going to go for an Anthony Smith. I think he will get it done, bar those last 2 maulings. I think he will get it done. It just depends where he's mentally at.
Man, so I'm with you. Me and Jason talked earlier this week, and I like Anthony Smith, and Jason didn't totally agree. We'll see where he sits on that still. But when we talked earlier this week, I like Anthony Smith, and I still like Anthony Smith. This is a huge step down for Anthony Smith. Glover Teixeira, who's, pretty much the number 1 contender now for, pretty clear cut. I was stunned that he beat Santos, right? And that turned into, when that happened in that moment, that was like, oh man, that's kind of a bad loss. And it's like, but then you look at the body of work that Glover's put together in the past, year and a half, this run that he's on, it's not that bad of a loss anymore. Like the way he lost was kind of rough, but his output was insane in the first 2 rounds, and he gassed out because he couldn't put Glover away. Well, update everybody. Nobody can put Glover away, including Thiago Santos, who I think is the hardest hitting 205er. I mean, it's just, it's Glover's veteran, whatever you want to call it. Nobody can put Glover away right now. So, I'm not hating on him too bad for that one. And, Alexander, what is it? Rakic? Is that how you say his name?
Rakic, yeah.
Rakic, yeah.
Okay. Kicks harder than anybody in the world.
Yeah.
And he just chewed up Anthony Smith, and that looked like just one of those nights where Anthony Smith just didn't really seem to be there. And we've seen this, and we're starting to address it with fighters where, you know what, sometimes you just have to have an off night. And that's what makes the elite fighters so incredible, that either like a John Jones, when you figure out how to win when you're having an off night, or you get the Donald Cerrones who just sometimes just have poor performances. I think this is just a case of Anthony Smith running into a Glover Teixeira, who's a man on a mission to make one last run. And he had an off night, and it just happened to be back-to-back fights. The run that he was on before that was an incredible run. I think Anthony, the only thing that worries me is this is his third fight in 6 months, right? With 2 losses, it's like, is he giving himself the time between fights to reset and correct some things or whatever? But I would actually still say I think we're going to see vintage Lionheart here, and I think he puts away Devin Clark in like the second round. I think there's 2 ways to look at it. He's not giving himself enough time, or he knows he can do better, and that he just wants to get back in there and right that wrong. And I think you're going to see some urgency with Anthony Smith. I think this is, you're talking about a guy who's going in there for the 50th time for his professional fight versus a guy who this is his 17th. That is huge cage time experience difference. I think Anthony Smith should be a bigger favorite. And I think people are making the odds are closer than they should be because of 2 bummer performances by Anthony, but I think he overwhelms Devin Clark here.
I don't.
I know you don't.
I don't like the last 2 performances, and I can see why a lot of people are looking at it. I think Devin Clark's, his wrestling is going to be the difference. And I love Anthony Smith. Let me get that out there right now. I love Anthony Smith. I'm a huge fan of his. I don't like the way he's lost his last 2 fights, and it's a quick turnaround. He just fought the end of August after he took a beating in May. Then he loses to Alexander Rakic, which Zach touched on. The guy's got some of the hardest kicks in MMA. I think Devin Clark gets it done, man. I think his wrestling, I think he controls him, and I think he ekes out a decision. So I'm going to disagree with both of you guys.
Oh, by the way, who's in Anthony Smith's corner?
Who's in his corner?
James Krause. Don't bet against James Krause, guys.
Speaking of James Krause, speaking of that, since you brought that up, I am changing my pick, that Rachel Ostovich pick, and I'm going to go with Gina Mazzani because of James Krause. And I totally spaced that off. She trains with James Krause, and I totally spaced that. But when you brought it up, so I'm switching my Rachel Ostovich pick, and I'm going Gina Mazzani because of James Krause.
Okay, I'm switching too because I'm all team James Krause.
James, you picked Mazzani anyways, right?
Yeah, right from the get-go. I don't need the James Krause bias.
Because James doesn't like pretty girls in MMA.
Yeah.
That's what I heard him say earlier.
It's okay, James. It's okay. All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up. So let's just give your pick on the Blaydes Lewis. What were you thinking on that one?
That's going to happen next month anyway.
Okay. Well, go ahead. Go ahead and give us your pick. Just what the hell? We got a few more minutes.
Yeah. Well, when this fight does happen within the next couple of weeks, I think the game plan for both men is pretty clear. For Lewis, is obviously to defend the takedown, potentially find the knockout. Whereas with Blaydes, he's obviously going to try and take Lewis down as soon as possible, unleash the ground and pound, hoping for a knockout or settling for a comfortable decision. We know Lewis has that one-punch knockout power on the feet, and he is a threat until the final seconds, because you looked at his fight against Volkov with Lewis. I think he was losing all 3 rounds when I was scoring it, and then he just poured it on with like 15 seconds to go, got that finish, which is unbelievable. Blaydes managed to knock out Dos Santos on the feet, and in his last couple of fights, Blaydes has been very impressive. His 2 professional career losses were against Francis Ngannou, I believe. So again, I'm looking forward to that fight when it does happen. Blaydes is expected to be the big man and get the fight to the floor and keep him there for as long as possible. And I think he will beat Lewis up. I'm probably going to go. I was thinking a decision, but I just think the takedowns will just take its toll on Lewis, and I think he will get it done midway through the fight. I'm going to go for a third round in Blaydes' favor.
Just curious. Does anybody remember watching? Oh, okay. I have a question for both of you first. Whose MMA wrestling do you think is better, Daniel Cormier's or Curtis Blaydes?
It's a good question. I would probably have to go Cormier. I think just for
yeah.
Okay, but it's close, right?
DC, it's very close. I'm saying I'm leaning towards DC, and then look at what DC did to Lewis.
So, case in point, DC didn't just beat Derrick Lewis. Like, he took that fight as the heavyweight champ and defended his belt against Derrick Lewis, and he made it look so easy. Nobody even remembers DC defending his heavyweight belt against Derrick Lewis.
No.
Like, nobody even remembers that fight. Derrick Lewis, he's a good athlete. He has a lot of natural power. It seems like he's been training harder. But at the end of the day, if there's anything I know about training myself and watching MMA, there is no amount of time, even if you're a great athlete like Conor McGregor or if you're whatever, there is no amount of time that allows you to catch up to an elite wrestler. Curtis Blaydes, now that Cormier is gone and retired, Curtis Blaydes is now the elite wrestler at the heavyweight division. Derrick Lewis, being a dedicated MMA fighter for the last year or two, does not catch you up in the wrestling department. Never will. Sorry, it's not going to. You're not going to stop those takedowns. And being a blue belt doesn't do much either against an elite wrestler. So he lasted till 2 minutes and 14 seconds in the second round with Daniel Cormier. So I'm going to say with Curtis Blaydes, he lasts till the late second round or third round.
Yeah.
I don't think as much as I want to bet on Derrick Lewis, because I love Derrick Lewis and I want to pick Derrick Lewis, and I mean, he's the best Instagram in the UFC, and he's, and all these reasons, his post-fight interviews are the best. There is one thing in MMA math that works, and that is elite wrestler versus non-elite wrestler. Non-elite wrestler gets smashed every time.
It was kind of like me grappling yesterday with everybody at your gym, Zach. I am the non-elite wrestler, the non-grappler. So I got smashed all day long. Oh, I almost got choked out by Daisy. I was this close, and she's probably 110 pounds?
Maybe we'll say 112 just to give you the extra 2 pounds.
And she was probably that close to choking me out. So that just goes to show where my wrestling is.
She's been training for like 4 to 6 months, and you've only been doing it for a couple times now.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, you keep training, you keep coming and rolling at Unified, come up with us, or and wherever. 3 to 4 months, you level up so quick in the first 3 to 4 months. It's like it's crazy. And then you kind of stall for a little bit, and then that 9 to 12 month mark, you like hit another like breakthrough level, and you get even better. And yeah, it's kind of weird with jiu-jitsu.
James, do you do any training? Do you train jiu-jitsu or anything?
At uni, we've got a couple of gyms over in Portsmouth, and I was going to sign up to a few this year, but COVID had to intervene, and since then they've like closed down properly, and we don't have really any sort of MMA gyms, if you will. So it's just saying, I'm going to try and get some at some point.
Anybody's listening, hypothetically, this is all hypothetical training. We're not training either. It's all hypothetical.
Yeah. Who do you guys like is Derrick Lewis is scheduled to grapple with Ryan Bader at the end of December on Chael Sonnen's Submission Underground.
I would imagine Ryan Bader mauls him.
You think so? You think so too, James?
Totally agree, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess that pretty much wraps it up.
Is there any other MMA stuff that we could talk about? This is really short.
I know it is pretty short.
If you have to bounce off, James, that's okay. But we like to ramble.
No. It's fine. It's fine with me. I mean, I've done all my uni work today. I've got the rest of the evening off.
Who do we pick tomorrow, James? Who do we like tomorrow in soccer? I don't think we have any games today, do we?
I don't know.
No, I don't think we've got any games. to have a look for you.
If you were a betting man, what 2 teams would you pick tomorrow out of?
Give me some leagues.
Okay, let's go. Hang on just a second. Let me pull it up here.
Hey, USA is playing the Netherlands right now.
In what?
In soccer.
Is
What?
this women's or?
Oh, that is a women's international friendly. Just kidding. I don't know.
So,
I don't know, man.
You got to. This is how degenerate we are. We're betting on soccer. What if we do the?
We're not betting on anything. It's all you, Jason.
England Premier League. England Premier League tomorrow. Liverpool and Brighton Hove Albion.
Albion. Liverpool, even though they've lost a couple of their star men in recent weeks due to like COVID injuries and what have you, I still think they've got the firepower to edge Brighton. Well, I say edge, to dominate Brighton. Yeah, that's the early kickoff, so I would heavily back Liverpool on that one, even though they're away at the Amex. I'm leaning towards the champions on this one. They're going to absolutely murder Brighton just because of their firepower up top.
What do you like about Manchester City and Burnley FC?
Burnley, I don't know. They're coming off of a big win against Crystal Palace on Monday. I watched them. I love Sean Dyche. I love Burnley. I love the way they operate. They're a true Premier League team. But with Man City, I mean, they've had an absolute woeful season so far. Literally woeful. They've had a couple of injuries themselves. But again, you'd probably favour City on this one just because of like Liverpool and Brighton, their firepower is probably going to get them over the line in this one. I expect goals in that one. And certainly in City's favour. I don't think Burnley are going to have I think it's going to be a tough night for them at the office.
They're a huge underdog, by the way. And then
Burnley.
Yeah, Burnley's a huge underdog.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Hey, okay.
This is turning into the soccer betting.
Can we get back to MMA, please?
Yes, I just wanted to know. I just wanted to know 2 picks for tomorrow.
You're ridiculous.
Most confident bets? I'm thinking he's talking about the UFC. Most
James,
confident.
Who do you like between James Krause and Joaquin Buckley? That fight's got to happen. That fight's got to happen now.
That's got to happen because they've had that back and forth, haven't they? I think I've seen
they hate each
Krause,
other. They genuinely hate each other.
From the recent interviews I've seen from James Krause, I mean, make the fight. I don't know. I probably want to go with James Krause. I really want to favour James Krause in this one, but Buckley's a straight up killer. But I don't know. Nothing that Krause can't handle.
That's my thing. It's like, you think Buckley hits harder than something that James Krause hasn't seen before? Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, me and Jason did get bit on that because we picked against Buckley on the last card. I thought everybody was just riding him because of the highlight knockout, which was a cool knockout. That's great. But I just thought everybody was riding him. And then highlight knockouts are my guy Jordan Wright and bummer. But I don't think he does that to James Krause. And then if he does it to James Krause, we might have a legit superstar on our hands.
The wise little goat commented on our YouTube on our most confident bets for tomorrow night. My most confident bet, I've already put it in, is Miguel Blaydes.
So if I were a betting man, and I am,
sure,
which I am, this was my plan. You tell me if somebody doesn't like these. I had this parlay set up, James. Kai Kamaka with Ostovich and Mazzini over 2.5. That fight's going to decision. Neither of those girls are finishing each other. Get out of here.
Yeah, totally agree.
Spike Carlisle and Miguel Blaydes. And then I topped it off with Curtis Blaydes so that if something weird did happen, I could have hedged with Derrick Lewis at the end going into the main event. But that was that's a nice little 4-1, like plus 400 payout. Just saying.
It's a good payout.
Hypothetically speaking, that's a nice little 4-fight parlay for everybody. I like all of those to hit. So I would say for your value, Baez and Carlisle are both just shy of 2-1 favorites. And if you're going straight up, I like those. If you want to build a nice little fat parlay, I really like Carlisle and Baez together. And then if you want to get a little greedy with it, like I did, you could tack on the over in the most least talented fight on the night with the Kai Kamaka as the 3-1 favorite. That's what I'm digging tomorrow night.
James, what are you most confident on?
Yeah, that's probably the safest bets. Definitely with Ostovic and Masny, that fight to go over 2 rounds, that'll definitely go the decision. I'm probably going to go. I'm in agreement with with you boys in this one, in Zach. That's probably the safest parlay to go with on the night.
Yeah, I agree. I like the over on that one. I definitely think that goes over. I would actually put Mudajar. Man, I need to practice my pronunciation. Sorry, guys. I would actually replace him. I'm not that confident on Kayamaka on short notice moving up. That's just my.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I'm confident. I think he wins, but I don't know if I want him in my parlay. So I like the over. I like Sue. I would put Spike Carlisle and Miguel Baiza. Those are my I think pretty much locks on this card.
Right.
And I mean, if you wanted to take roll the dice a little bit, Jonathan Pierce could be a good underdog. What's that?
Yeah, no, keep going. I like that.
Gosh, you know what? Lately, the UFC, and I don't know what it was unreal odds on the favorites winning in these fights. It was like 26-2 or something before last weekend. It was something crazy like that. I don't have the statistics sitting right in front of me, but lately it's been chalk. I mean, if you're going chalk, you're winning money. But we like to make it interesting, so sometimes we pull a few things out of the hat.
Hey,
all right, fellas.
James, last question: does Kevin Holland have a chance against Jack Hermanson?
Oh, he's a big underdog. Holland's a big underdog.
Big underdog.
I mean, what is he? He's 4-0 in 2020 this year, so the confidence is literally skyrocketed with him, and that's what I like with him fighters. I mean, it's the same with Figueiredo as well. He's coming off of a win, and he's bouncing back very quickly. And I like fighters who are on a roll to keep that hot streak going. You know, why not? There's certainly some chance there, but I don't know. I think just based on the fact that Jack Hermanson's fought the high level of caliber fighters, I'm probably leaning towards Jack on this one. But, Kevin Holland has a chance.
Kevin Holland is like approaching this like weird aura about him. He's okay. He's not fighting bums. He did knock out Joaquin Buckley on 5 days notice. And he's won some close fights too, but did you see him jarring at Israel Adesanya his last fight? It's like
after he won,
and he's already got like that in his head. I'm like, okay, he's definitely mentally thinks he's there. So it's Jack Hermanson's a tall order. I don't know, man. I don't know if he can. I don't know if he can make that. But he has such an unorthodox, weird style. It kind of makes me think like he might be able to make it interesting. He's taller. He's longer. He's lanky. I don't know.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I don't know. To go from Charlie Ontiveros to Jack Hermanson, that was on short notice as well, because that was supposed to be down till Jack Hermanson won it. So to go from that sort of nobody, because I think Charlie was making his UFC debut, I think, on that night. So Jack Hermanson, who's a top 5 well-established middleweight, it really is a tough ask for Kevin Holland.
I like it. Cool.
Heck yeah.
All right. We put in a solid hour.
James, thanks for joining us, man. So it's good to have you back on the show. And
anytime. Yeah, it's been a while.
Good to do this with you again. I'm sure we'll have you back on.
Yeah, hit me up. I'd happily come on again.
Roger that. Awesome. We'll see you guys later. Enjoy the fights tomorrow.
And you. Take care, gents.
Boom.